Welcome back to the Corvette Chronicle. Sorry I've taken such a break from it. I worked on that Ranger, had some other stuff to do, and finally getting back on the Corvette. So today we're going to change this brake hose and brake caliper that, if you watched our previous videos, you'll notice that it was pretty cruddy. So we're going to do that. And I've already got the new caliper hooked up to the brake hose, because the way Corvette did this in the 70s, they actually had the hose thread directly into, with a pressurized fitting, into the brake caliper. So I had to do that before I got this one ready, so that way it's not just sitting there leaking that much brake fluid. So what we're going to do is, you're going to see me take this one off, and I'm going to take the pads out of this one, and if they're not that grungy, we'll inspect them. Probably just put them in the new caliper, so that way everything's the same on both sides still. I'll talk to the owner about them. If they're bad, we'll have to replace them both on the same side, because when you do one side of something to brakes, especially when it's involving the pads and rotors, you do both. Not front, side to side, not front to rear. So I'm going to put this into time lapse, because you can see I've got my flare nut wrench, got my 1/2-inch drive ratchet with the appropriate size socket to unbolt this, because brakes are tight and tough. And I got my drain pan set up, so in case we do have leaky brake fluid, number one, that's not a problem, because I want to flush it all out of this car and change it all to fresh, like you saw me do in the master cylinder video. And two, the reason I have my drain pan is I don't want any brake fluid on this lift. So we'll get started on that. I'm going to go and fast forward, because otherwise it's really boring. Okay, what you just saw me do was remove this and its brake hose. And if you look, I know it's hard to see, but you see all of this. Sorry about the air compressor. Did you see all this crud here? See how that piston kind of rocks back and forth? This seal in this caliper is gone bad. You can see it's all rubberized right there, and it's rusty. This would be a good candidate for a rebuild, and I'm going to take it back to get the core back on it, so somebody else can have a good one for their Corvette. And I'm going to have to call the owner of the car, because if you notice this brake pad, it's nice and dry and looks like it's supposed to. But this one, where the calipers were leaking, notice we've got a chunk missing, and it's got nasty brake fluid all soaked into it. So our friction coefficient would never ever come back. There's no way we could clean all this stuff out of here. So I'm going to have to put a set of brake pads on this, and I will measure the rotors and make sure there's enough material left on them. And if there are, we'll probably put it on the brake lathe. So we're going to go a little more in depth in this, and we'll have to pick it up later. Okay, I got the new caliper bolted on and the brake hose tightened down like I said I was going to. And now I've got the new brake pads, so we're going to load the caliper with them. And these Corvettes have a pin that goes through these two holes here, right here. And these two brake pads have a hole that they ride on. So we're going to slide them in here, and have to kind of wiggle them down past the pistons. I have to get a screwdriver. Okay, now that I got that fought through, slide the pin in, and it's got a little keeper clip that keeps it from coming back out. So, now we'll turn this wheel back straight. Actually, I'll leave it there, because we're going to have to start bleeding the brakes. So I'll get set up for that, and we'll move around. When I talked to the owner of the car on the phone yesterday, they did ask me to check out this brake caliper, because if the one on the other side was leaking, they wanted to make sure this one wasn't leaking. So when we change the pads on it, we will see how those pistons look. So we pulled our little keeper pin, pulled our clip. Now we should be able to work these back and forth a little bit. So screwdriver. Uh-oh. I see we've had brake seepage. So I think we're going to go ahead and change this caliper before we bleed the brakes out, because they're okay with it because they want it to be right, and I'm okay with that because we also want it to be right. So luckily this one wasn't near as bad as the other side, but you can look, it's starting to eat the paint off the back of that caliper, and this one is a little bit too. And I'll bring you around and we can look down in there. See how it's starting to get a little gungy and a little seepy? That's brake fluid getting around those seals and those dust boots. So to make it right, we're going to go ahead and replace this one as well while we got it apart. So I'll get that ordered, get it coming, and we'll go from there. Okay, I got the brake line broke loose, so now we can go ahead and pull this clip out of here that holds it on. And now we can unbolt the brake caliper from the steering knuckle. Again, I'm using a 1/2-inch drive ratchet with a 5/8 drive socket on this. Ta-da! This brake hose seems to be in excellent shape, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer it to the new caliper. May have to go put it back, get the brake loose. Okay, got the brake hose transferred to the new caliper. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load the pads into this caliper first before we install it. Came with a nice new pin again and a new clip. One of our brake pads. Line it up. Take the other brake pad. Line it up. Put the pin in. Get our little clevis pin, retaining clip. Spread these out. Slide it down over the rotor. Fish our brake hose out of the way. Get our rotor put where it needs to go. We can start our bolts. The reason I did the other one the other way is because I had to wait for the brake pads to get here and I already had the caliper installed. So there's both ways you can change brake pads on the front or the rear of your C3 Corvette with 4 piston disc brakes. Got our 2 bolts installed. Ratchet. I'm just snugging these up. I'll look up the torque specs and come back to my torque wrench. Because we're far from done with this car. It's on the docket. We still have to bleed the brakes. And then to get that done, we're going to tackle the ignition system. Already in the parts pile, we have a set of AC Delco spark plugs. So we put the exact same ones back in it, and a set of spark plug wires. So now we can turn this just a little bit. We can get our brake hose here. Get it put back up in its slot. Put our clip back in. Now very carefully we start our brake line because we want to make sure it's centered, so we always start with fingers. Cross-threading brake line fitting would be a bad deal. Actually, I had to use some vice grips on this one because somebody before me had to use vice grips on it, so my flare nut wrench didn't actually work. So that's something you'll run into a lot on older cars, is especially if somebody's been a hack mechanic on it at one time. And I don't have the time allotted for this project to cut this nut off, put a new one on, and re-flare this piece of steel brake line. That'll be a project for another day. I'll show you guys how to do that. So we're going to get it snug with my open-end wrench here. And then I will get my flare nut wrench to grab, just so it's got some better points of contact. Because one thing we don't want is leaky brakes. Yeah. Okay, now we're ready to bleed brakes. So I'm going to stop for the day because my time has come to the end of shop time. So I'll edit this video and we'll do bleeding brakes on number 5.